Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to Season 2 of Penitentiary Kingpin. St. John was on top of the world. His relationship with Roxanne was going really well. Everything was better for everybody now that Rome was gone. St. John and Roxanne had solidified their position as one of the main suppliers of dope in the prisons. But Roxanne wasn't satisfied. She had plans to become the main supplier, not only in the prison that St. John's was housed at, but throughout the whole state. To do this, she needed to make sure that she can get enough product. Roxanne, she didn't trust the plug that her mother had introduced her to because this guy was a friend of Rome. St. John got in touch with his plug that he used when he was out on the streets and gave Roxanne the number. Roxanne met him in the parking lot at a McDonald's. When she pulled alongside his car, she noticed the smell of weed coming from his car. What kind of drug dealer smokes weed in his car, in a parking lot, in the presence of other people, she thought. She trusted St. John, but she didn't trust his plug. But since she was here, she may as well listen to see what he had to say. What's up? My name is Greg. Hello? My name is Roxanne. St. John told me to call you. He said you could help me. How much you looking for, Greg asked. For starters, I think I'm going to need 5 zips a week. That's all you need? I thought you was trying to do something big. How much can you handle, she said. If you got the money, I can get whatever you need. Roxanne knew then that she had found who she needed, if what he said was true. As Greg pulled off, he gave Roxanne his private number. He said, call this number when you're looking for some real shit. I got whatever weight you need. But if you're still trying to get that small shit you were just talking about, call the number St. John gave you. I don't handle big stuff on that number. Roxanne sat there for a couple of minutes before she pulled off, thinking about what he had just said. Is this real? She had met guys before that talked the talk but couldn't walk the walk. She was wondering if Greg was one of those guys. On her way back to the house, she stopped at Leah's house. Leah was on the telephone. Who you talking to, girl? She said, I'm talking to Ben. Tell him I said, what's up? Give me a minute and we can talk, Leah said. When Leah got off the phone, her and Roxanne had a drink and talked. I met this dude named Greg. St. John gave me his number. He used to deal with him when he was out on the streets, right? What's wrong with the plug you got? I don't trust it because he was Rome's plug. Have you told your mama that you're cutting him off? Nah, not yet. I want to make sure that this dude can produce. Do you know anything about him other than what St. John told you? Nope, I've never heard of him. Where is he from? I don't know anything about him except that he was St. John's plug. The way I see it, Leah, if we move 5 ounces a week for $1,000 apiece, we could pull 20 a month out of prison. I can't take that much in one day. I can barely hold the 2 I've been taking in for you now. You're going to have to put in work and take some in yourself. Roxanne looked at Leah and smiled. But inside she knew that she wasn't going to take anything in because she was the boss. She had to find someone to take the extra work unless she could convince Leah to put in extra work on Sunday. 2.5 on Saturday, 2.5 on Sunday. She would offer Leah more money. Everybody had a price. She just had to find Leah's. Roxanne left Leah's house so she could get home in time enough to take a bath so she could talk to Rome before the night ended. She looked forward to St. John calling every night. Even though he was in prison, St. John had a way of making her feel like a woman, more than any man had ever made her feel. Sitting in the bathtub thinking about some of the things that St. John had told her that he was going to do to her, her body came alive. She yearned for his touch. How could this man that had never been with me in the way that I've been with other men affect me in this way? She loved St. John, and she knew that he loved her. When the phone rang, she let it ring twice before she answered it. You have a collect call from an inmate at a correctional institution. She pressed 0 to accept the call, and just like that, she heard his voice. Hey, baby, St. John said. Roxanne smiled when she heard his voice. Hey, baby, I've been waiting all day to hear your voice. Tell me something to make me feel good. I love you, baby, St. John said. I love you too, baby. I talked to Greg today. He seems okay, but I don't know if he can produce what we need. Until I know, I'm going to keep things the way they are. That's cool. Whatever you think is best. There's no reason to rush it. When we step it up, we better make sure that we can handle it. We'll talk more at Visit this weekend. As Roxanne lay in her bed listening to St. John talking, her body awakened. He had that effect on her. Her entire body tingled at the sound of his voice. Even when she tried to resist him, her body betrayed her. Her heartbeat would increase, causing her palms to sweat. Her nipples would become so sensitive that she could barely touch them. She would close her legs, trying her best to stop the urge to touch herself. He knew when she was excited because she would go silent on him. He would just keep talking about whatever he was talking about. Will you always love me? Roxanne said. Always, he said. Just in case, though, I'm going to start recording your voice so that if you ever leave me, I can listen to your voice anytime I want to. St. John said it won't be the same. They both laughed and said their goodbyes and I love yous. Then they hung up the phone. That night in the cell, St. John could barely sleep, thinking about Roxanne and how much he loved her. He couldn't wait until the day that he could be with her outside of prison, free to love her, kiss her, take her out, talk to her face to face as she got excited from his voice. Life is good under the circumstances, he thought. As for Roxanne, she lay in her bed surrounded by pillows, thinking of the day that her and St. John would be together in this very bed, holding each other, kissing each other, loving each other. She glanced at the clock. It was 11 o'clock. It's too late to get one in, she thought, so she closed her eyes and thought about something other than St. John. She knew that if she didn't, she would be up all night, hot and wet. The weekend came fast. Roxanne and Leah were excited to be going to the prison to see St. John and Ben. Leah was loaded down as usual with the product. They had never had any problems. Today was going to be different, though. When they rounded the corner leading to the entrance of the prison, they saw the roadblock. Roxanne frantically looked for a way to turn around. There was no way out. The officer motioned for them to pull over so he could search the car. The canine officer approached the car with the dog. Circling the car, the dog sniffed the tires, doors. Circling the car, the dog sniffed the tires, doors, and bumpers. The officer told them to exit the car and walk over to the building to the right. As they walked to the building, Leah looked at Roxanne with utter fear in her eyes. The package was secure, she thought, but she was so scared that she started to sweat. When they stepped into the building, Roxanne recognized the female officer behind the desk. It was a high school classmate of hers. She couldn't remember her name, but she knew her face. The female officer recognized Roxanne. They also walked toward her. "Don't I know you?" Roxanne looked at her and said, "You look familiar. Where did you go to school?" "That's it. We were in Gibson's class together at East High," the officer said. "My name is Crystal." "Oh, yeah, I remember you now. How you doing?" "Oh, just getting my money, working at this prison." "Oh, okay." Now, while they were talking, the other officer escorted Leah to the back to be strip searched. A few minutes later, Leah returned with a smile on her face. Her and the officer were laughing and talking like old friends. The same officer that had just searched Leah told Roxanne to follow her to the back. Just like Leah, in a few minutes, Roxanne returned, but she wasn't laughing. She walked past Crystal, said, "I'll see you around, Crystal. Leah, let's go." When they got back in the car, Roxanne was pissed off. "That bitch fingered me when she was searching me." "She fingered me too," said Leah. "I didn't care. I opened my legs and let her get her fingers wet. As long as she didn't get the pack, she could have licked my pussy. I wouldn't have cared." "Well, I didn't like it at all. I'm the only one that plays in my pussy, except for St. John. I'll be damned if I let anybody else touch me." "Girl, forget all that. As long as we get through, hell, I gave her my number. We're hooking up later." Roxanne went straight into Mac mode. "We're going to put her freaky ass to work." Don't say anything about this to being a St. John's, though. When they got to the visitation gallery, Leah went to the restroom to remove the pack. It was covered with her scent. She removed the condom and rubbed it between her legs so Ben could smell her on the tape all week long. Roxanne and St. John sat at the table, stealing kisses whenever the officers weren't looking. When Leah returned, they discussed their future plans. "Do you think y'all can get rid of 5 zips a week in here?" Roxanne asked. Ben and St. John looked at each other. "Yeah." St. John said, "There's enough people in here to spread that around easily." "What's on your mind?" Ben asked. "I've been thinking about 5 a week should be the goal. I'll pay Leah the same for each one. If need be, we'll come to visit Saturday and Sunday." Ben looked at Leah. "Can you handle 5, baby?" "No, I cannot. Not all at once. I'm barely holding the 2 I bring every week." "When I get it worked out, you need to be ready. So find 3 more people. The ticket is $1,000 apiece." The rest of the visit, Roxanne and St. John talked about their future together, while Leah and Ben played dominoes. Before they knew it, it was time to go. They kissed and hugged until the officer stopped them. On the ride home, Roxanne wanted to put the finger-fucking officer on the team. Anybody with the nerve to stick their finger in another woman's pussy the way she did was a risk taker. That's the type that would take the pack in. Roxanne and Leah talked all the way home about how they would get her on the team. Leah was down for anything. If she joined the team or not, it didn't matter to her. All she cared about tonight was getting licked on. This concludes this episode of Penitentiary Kingpin. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.